Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Mashpee Public Schools for the June 5th, 2024 meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags over here in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people. The mic only really picks up for the television, but I will try to enunciate louder for the people in the audience, okay? The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Is that better? Can you hear me in the back? Thank you. First item of business is to ratify the agenda for June 5th, 2024. Committee members, it's in front of you. If you would take a look, please. Are there any changes or additions that need to be made to this agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would like to offer an amendment to the agenda that prior to public comment, the school committee be allowed to make statements if they desire.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? So all committee members are able to make statements during public comment, so
Okay.
we don't really need a
That's
motion
fine.
to be able to do that.
Just wanted it on the record, that's all.
We'll be following the same rules that the rest of the public will be, which given the number will be a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. All right. But we did have a motion, we had a second, so we do need to go ahead and have a vote on that. Brian, did you hear the motion? Oh, and by the way, Brian Whedon is participating remotely for this meeting. So, Brian, did you hear the motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How do you vote?
Yes.
Dan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Kathy?
Yes,
Kelly?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, even though I don't think it's necessary. But, okay. That being said, I will start. I guess who wants to start? Dan, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So I guess first and foremost, I just want to begin by saying, obviously the actions of what happened at Mashpee Middle High School very clearly, those behaviors, that situation is completely unacceptable. Our goal, my goal in this appointment is to ensure that obviously what we are doing here month after month is to promote and support opportunities for our schools to be safe, encompassing, supportive, and really to work as a unit and as a community to ensure that our children feel welcome and safe in these settings. I will also say, though, that I'm very excited to see the number of individuals who are here tonight, obviously to share their thoughts and opinions on this. My hope and desire is that the number of folks that are here tonight continue throughout our other meetings, because I think that this touches more than just this particular situation. The voices of the constituents in this room are important throughout the year, not just obviously when incidences happen. And my kind of final comment is, in my viewpoint, again, our responsibility is to ensure that our schools remain safe and that the schools take appropriate action when these incidences happen. And we also do know that bullying is not a Mashpee-specific issue, right? This is a national, a regional, a large problem in the United States. That is why there were initiatives in the past, such as Be Best, where it was working towards identifying and reducing bullying, cyberbullying. Our goal being the fact that we are trying to do this in the context of the four walls of each of these buildings. The truth is that this lives outside of our buildings, right? This is a community need. We need to address this as a group. And my hope is that the individuals here can continue to partner with us to ensure that not only while your children and your loved ones are in our school system, that we have this safety, but when they return back into the community, that carries forward. And that doesn't happen in isolation. As a parent of two little ones, I know what this looks like. There is no smoke nor mirrors behind this statement of trying to cover or figure out a workaround. This is an ongoing issue for our children, regardless if they're in school or not. So I think that starts with, obviously, role modeling for everyone who's here in this room. It starts with policy changes at both regional, national levels, and I'm hoping that we can continue to work alongside the folks in this room again tonight to make sure that the strengths that we will build in the community we can carry into our school system. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Kathy?
Again, I'm going to echo a little bit of what Dan said, but I first would like to say thank you to all those involved in making sure Aaliyah came home safely. So thank you to everyone. As a parent, first and foremost, because every one of us who sits on this committee is a parent, I think we can all agree with the outrage you all have expressed. The reason you're here tonight, we shared it. We might not have been as public about it, but that does not necessarily mean that we did not feel the same level of outrage, if not more. The fact that this is happening in our school, in other districts on the Cape, in our state, and in our country shows that this is a problem everywhere. It is not something we can solve overnight. However, these are the reasons why we are here to do the work we're trying to do. Our schools are a microcosm of our community as a whole. This is indicative of a problem that is permeating everywhere. In order to address it, we as a community need to come together rather than erecting, flogging posts, because that's kind of the sentiment I was getting at one point. I think we need to come together and figure out, how do we break these cycles? Does it start with better communication? Yes. Yes, it does. Does it start with transparency that you all are looking for? Yes. However, in some instances, when ongoing investigations are happening and all of the facts cannot be shared with the public, we have to do what's best for the students. They are children. We cannot lose sight that we are all here because we care and love and want the best for the children of Mashpee. That is why every one of us are here in this room. We are devoted to the children of this town. It is appalling what happened in that video. It has made me sick for almost 2 nights since I saw it. It is not okay in any sense. It is beyond bullying. And as a parent who had a child who experienced bullying in the school to a very, very drastic point, I understand the frustration. I understand the policies. I understand the laws. I understand your frustration in this matter. It is not something that is falling on blind or deaf ears or eyes. I just really would like to stress that we are a group of 5 elected people, yes, and we have a superintendent of schools, and we have an amazing faculty and staff that are all devoted to your children, to our children, because they're not just my child, your child, they are our children. And the support is really what is needed, and the ways to work together need to be found and be more effective, and I agree with that. However, I think there's more productive ways of getting to that point, and I would like to see us all continue. Again, to echo Dan, even though this is a horrible incident that brought you all here tonight, I would love to see you all here at every meeting. Your voices and input are so important to the work that we do. We operate only on the information we have access to. If we do not know what your children are saying at home because our kids might not be friends, we don't know. I don't necessarily know what's going on in the Coombs school. I don't know what's going on in the Quashnet school. Vice versa. We are only as good as the information we have. So in order to get that information, people need to talk. We need to have conversations. I have spoken to a few people, some in this room, some not in this room, but definitely have been on other outlets talking, and we've had very productive conversations, at least in my opinion. I had one that ended with somebody saying, I didn't think we'd agree on things, but here we are agreeing on things. I am here for you and your children. I am not here for my own self purposes. It's because I believe in education and I believe in our children. So please continue to talk, continue to tell us what is going on. We know there are issues. We are doing our work to make them better. We need your help though. We are 5 people. Yes, we are at the top, but we need to hear you in a more productive way, I guess is really where I'm going with this. So thank you, and I will end it there.
Okay. Kelly?
I went through every emotion that a person can possibly go through when I found out that this incident had happened. Again, like everybody else that sits on this board, I am a parent. I was infuriated, I was sad, I was angry, I was confused. The emotions that went through my brain are just undescribable. And to know that this is happening inside 4 walls that are supposed to be safe for our children to go through is even more infuriating. But we need to work together as a team. We need the team mentality of all of our community members and our stakeholders, in order to fix a problem that, once again, like they have said, is not just Mashpee. It is everywhere. Bullying is everywhere. Racism is everywhere. And the only way that we can make a difference is if we work together. We need to hear your ideas. We need to hear your opinions. My son was also bullied in the Mashpee Public School system. I handled it the correct way. There are right ways to do things and wrong ways to do things. Again, we're only as good as the information that we have. I have no problem, and I have in the past 29 days that I've been sitting in this seat, speaking to the people of this community and of this village that we have built about the issues that they face and the issues that they see within our community. Continue to do that. We are not the know-all. I am far from perfect. We are far from perfect. Together, maybe Mashpee can set an example that we are not going to deal with this. Things need to change and things need to get put in place so that all of our kids feel safe. No matter what color their skin is, no matter how intelligent they are, no matter how rich they are, how poor they are, or where they come from. Again, they are children. Children are a product of their environment, and their school is also their environment. These kids spend more time at school and with their friends than they do at home. So my suggestion would be talk to your kids, see what's going on, have those conversations, and maybe, hopefully, this never happens again. Again, thank God we found her safe. Thank God. Our prayers have been answered. Now let's work on fixing the issues at hand. Thank you guys all so much. And again, it'd be great to see all of you guys here every month. Give us your ideas. Tell us what's going on. That's the only way that we together as a team can make a change. Thank you.
Brian, do you have comments?
I just want to thank the fellow committee members for speaking up. I think they kind of covered everything. I am on travel in North Carolina, Cherokee, North Carolina, with the Eastern Band of Cherokees. They're hosting the National Congress of American Indians Mid-Year Convention. So I am here on work duties. But this is too important of an issue for me to miss this conversation and hear from the public. I just want to remind everyone that, there's this assumption that the
Thank you, Brian. So I'm probably going to repeat a few things that were said by other members of my committee, but I think the very first thing to say and the most important thing to say is thank God Aaliyah Cotton is back home where she belongs. I think we should not lose sight of the fact that it was a dedicated effort by the police, those members of the community, to help find her and to bring her back home. And so thank God for that. My first blush on this was, oh gee, this is spring fever again, and here we go. We're having a bunch of weird things happen in the school. But this is way beyond people having spring fever. This is taking it to a whole nother level, which is totally not acceptable in our schools. I don't know the answer of how to prevent episodes like this from happening. I don't know how to prevent kids from videotaping themselves imitating George Floyd. I don't have the answer for that. But I think collectively, us as the community, us as parents, as educators, somehow we have to be able to find a way to change the behaviors of kids so that they recognize the difference between right and wrong. Clearly what we've all experienced and what we saw on TikTok or copies of TikTok, we would say is not acceptable. Not acceptable. Goes against every grain and every fiber in my body to see that happen. It is not what we want to have happen, and we need to figure out how to change kids' perspectives so that it does not ever happen again. It's very easy for people to make this a black and white issue, particularly in the social media scheme. It's not a black and white issue. There are a lot of nuances. There's a lot of issues here that aren't readily available to the public. But it's very easy to simplify things in a social media perspective when you're basing things on the few facts that you have. As more facts become available, I think people's perspectives and perceptions will probably change. As more facts become available to this committee, we will be looking at our policies and procedures and what we can do in order to help mitigate what did happen and to prevent this from happening in the future. Our work is not over. There's a long process in order for this to get resolved. But we are, I believe, a cohesive school committee with a great administration and great faculty and by and large excellent student that will figure out how to make things better going forward. So with that, I'm going to now recognize, yes, I don't want to forget our student council. So Eve, if you have any comments you would like to make?
I'll keep it short. I was not aware of the situation until Monday. I was told on Monday, I don't remember when, I heard something about someone going missing. I did not become aware of actually what happened until yesterday. And it breaks my heart that that had happened to a student. I am on I'm on Peer Leaders, which, for those who don't know, it's an organization that goes into 7th and 9th grade classes, and we teach about anti-bias. We go in, there's probably 6 or 7 lessons. Every month I go in and I teach these kids. And I try my hardest, and I'm with multiple other kids. I've been doing this since I was in 9th grade. I try my hardest to get the message across to them. Bullying is not okay. You need to see other people's sides of the story. I've been raised to see both sides of the story. And I may be one person and I may represent all of the student body, but that does not mean that I know what is going on. I'm 17. I'm not all-knowing. I have never been all-knowing. Ask my teachers. A lot of times I make mistakes. And every person will make a mistake. Sometimes some will make more mistakes than others. And what we can do is just support those students through making the right choices and finding out how to make those right choices. Because at the end of the day, we do have an incredible faculty. Everyone that I know today that has said something about the situation is horrified. My teachers are horrified. I have not seen the video. I don't want to see the video. It is not something I can bring myself to watch. I don't have access to it right now. I don't want to have access to it right now. But I've been on this council for this whole year, and if I know anything, it's that the school committee will act in the best interest of the department. They want the kids to be happy. They want the faculty to be happy. But they are in an impossible situation where no matter what they choose, no one, not everyone will be happy. Same with the superintendent, same with the principals. They're in an impossible job. And if you don't have to agree with what they say, but at the end of the day, you may criticize them, but if you criticize them, sit in their spot and tell me that you can do a better job. That's pretty much it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eve.
Marlene, do you want to say anything? Paige? No? All right. With that, we're going to move on then to recognizing people from the audience. First name on the list, Tim Rumberger.
Good evening. This is a bit of a departure from the current discussion, but I would like to highlight one of the very positive and wonderful things that is going to happen in our school this week, actually tomorrow night. And I know there are a lot of people who want to talk, so I will keep it brief. We have an awesome event happening at MMHS tomorrow, a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club featuring Alex Torres and his Latin Orchestra, who will be teaching and performing in our school over the next 2 days. Joining them on stage will be student musicians who will be working with the band tomorrow. Showtime 7 o'clock, doors open at 6:30. We're asking for a donation of $15 from adults and $5 for children, but we're grateful for any contribution that folks can make. All proceeds go to the Keystone program of the Boys and Girls Club, which has helped thousands of our students over the years become great students and citizens. In addition, the band has a powerful message about inclusion, fighting bias, celebrating our differences, and diversity. So it's something that we believe in strongly as a staff. And I think it's more important than ever that we share those messages. We want that all of our students feel welcome and feel safe in our school. So also the orchestra will be playing Friday for the students at 1:20 if any school committee members would like to join us. So please do. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Williams.
Better standing when I speak than sitting. It's just what I'm used to.
Either one.
My name is Wendy Williams. I live on Mashpee Neck Road. No, it's Simon's Narrows. I've lived there 35 years. You'd think I'd remember the name of the street, but I'm old. I'm 73. I'm telling you that because I've seen it all. And I've never had a kid in this school because I don't have kids. Mostly I stay out of school business because I don't have kids in the school. But tonight, I'm really angry, absolutely furious. And after listening to this spiel from everybody, I'm even angrier. Because you all sound like Pontius Pilates. You all sound like you're abrogating responsibility. We don't know what's going on in school. Well, it's your job. You're supposed to know what goes on in school. You should be doing this 24/7. I do my job 24/7. You should be too. The only one of you that's excused is Kelly. She's only been here for a month. But the rest of you, you should have known. It took me one day of calling around to find out this kind of behavior is ongoing in your schools. This is not new. This cruelty, unfathomable, unimaginable, unbelievable cruelty, who's responsible for it? Well, the little girl who did the hitting, she's kind of responsible, but she's just a child. I don't really hold her responsible much at all. Something should happen, but what about the person behind the camera who was egging her on, who kept saying, fuck this and fuck that? Who was that person that said that? He's really responsible. I'm told it's her older brother. Don't know. Who else is responsible? Well, when I saw the video, there were a crowd of kids standing around in the hall of the school. They were not out somewhere unsupervised. Where were the teachers? Where were the supervisors? Where was the school resource officer? I just learned tonight, you got one school resource officer for 3 schools. Why is that? So they're responsible. You guys are all responsible. Patty DeBoer, you are really responsible. If I were on this school committee, I would be calling for your immediate firing tonight. The buck stops with you. You get $200,000 a year, and this is what's been going on in your school system. You are guilty, 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 and so are you, Assistant Superintendent. You're guilty. I sure hope you don't think you're going to have a future in this town, because you can't have one. So who's responsible here? Who did this? All of you. All of the adults who haven't dealt with this and who have known that it's been going on. Not just recently, not just in the spring, oh, something's happening in the spring. All year long, it's been going on. This girl has been maltreated, and I've talked to other people in your school system who told me personal stories today about having been abused and maltreated. This wasn't bullying. This was physical violence. This was physical violence, and it was perpetrated on an innocent child because you guys did not do your job. If I were the guardian of this child, every single one of you would be in court tomorrow. Patty, you should get sued. You should get sued. Everybody on the school committee should get sued. All the teachers. Where were the teachers? There was a whole gang of kids in the school hall. Why was that allowed to happen, Patty? Why was a gang of kids allowed to gather like that in the school hall and you didn't know? What's wrong with what you've been doing? So that's my statement. As I said, I don't have kids. I don't have anybody in the school system. I've stayed out of this. But what you have allowed to happen here is not bullying, it's physical violence, and it's been ongoing. So I better hear something from you guys saying, I'm sorry this is happening, and not, oh my God, I'm just Pontius Pilate, it's going on all over the country. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear all of you, Patty, you, all of you, take personal responsibility. The only person at this table who doesn't have to give personal responsibility is the young lady here. She's not responsible, but you are, in a personal sort of way. And I hope you do get called out in court because of your lack of diligence.
All right, thank you. Elaine Doyle.
Hi, my name's Alana Doyle. I want to start with that. I'm relieved beyond words that Aaliyah was found today. I'm thankful that our community made it a priority to find her. I'm here tonight to demand action and transparency regarding the amount of bullying that happens within our school system. For years, the administration has picked and choose what to inform parents on and what to leave us in the dark on. It's time for open communication and change. Tonight, I will outline my personal experience with the superintendent's direct effort to attempt to censor parent speech. This happened a while ago. I never brought it up due to fear of retaliation against my children, who were very young at the time. Today, I'm not scared and will not protect manipulators anymore. On this exact week, 5 years ago, a parent posted to the Mashpee Message. They were desperate for help because their child was subject to bullying, and the parent felt no action was being taken by the school. This parent didn't mention names and was strictly seeking advice and resources to help the situation. Many group members stated their children's experiences with bullying within the Mashpee school system. Other members offered advice for the parent. The following week, I received an email from the superintendent regarding the parent seeking advice to deal with the bullying. The email I am sharing with you tonight is a direct representation of our superintendent's efforts to censor the conversations about bullying in our schools, suggesting parents shouldn't be allowed to share this information publicly, and that I should consider changing the guidelines of what is allowed to be talked about in the Mashpee Message. I am embarrassed it took a student to be violently assaulted at school, then go missing, for me to come forward with this blatant attack on transparency and free speech. These incidents can no longer be swept under the rug. The administration needs to be held accountable for their complacency and lack of open communication.
Thank you.
There's a privacy disclaimer on the email, so I will not read it, but I would like to submit it to the school committee.
All right, thank you.
Along with my response.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Victoria Hare.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Victoria Hare. Most of you know me. I've been around a few times. I've got 2 students, one in Quashnet, one in Casey Coombs. Here we are. I'll be honest. I'm past the professional, polite place of patience and understanding I've come from in the past 9 months that I've been in and out of your mailboxes and your meetings. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. And I demand change today, like all these people in the room. The reason I'm angry, I think, is best described by a parenting experience all of us have had. The warnings you give your children, if something doesn't change, if we don't do this, something bad's going to happen. And we started that conversation a while ago. If your kids are anything like mine, they often have to learn by feeling the consequence. And I'm so sad that our Mashpee Public School District had to do the same. Because that's what we did this past week as the whole community went up in frenzy. Sorry. We have a student who's a frequent flyer, as I've heard, in Mashpee Middle School, High School, hurting others. That means the school and her adults have failed her. We haven't stopped the behavior in any effective way or helped. And now, thankfully, we have Aaliyah back, but at the time we had a missing child, one that did not feel safe or seen in our community. Wendy, the reason that we don't know that those students weren't congregating is because they weren't holding a portrait of a graduate sign. If one of your children was missing from your home, you would blur every legal line to get the word out and to find her. The communication from this school to do that was saddening. The bullying and lack of upstanders within our school system is at an incredibly embarrassing point. We tell our children all the time to be upstanders, but I also have to say to my community members, how many of us are standing up here on a daily basis requiring this type of accountability? In my interpretation of the video, Aaliyah seemed to be struggling with more than just the bullying. I haven't heard anyone bring that up. How can a student be in school in that capacity? You are feeding her to the sharks. The culture of transparency and false illusion that this district holds so proudly has got to change. Even the picture that was chosen to display of Aaliyah on 151 was not current or accurate. Was it because it wasn't nice and as groomed as the one you chose? I hear you. We need the community. We need people to come up. We need people to be effective.
Yet I feel like I've been coming to this table since October of last year trying to do that and have had to fight to get credit, to have a part to play, whether through the school committee, with the administration, within the schools, within the PTO. It's not available to parents that do want to participate.
You'll need to wrap up, please.
So, yes, my charge today is to stop hiding the truth. These are all of our children. There's not just one child. Every single one of them deserves us to fight, to change, and impact their foundational life experience. If every single one of you does not feel this way at the table, please get up and leave tonight. If you do not have this passion and this courage to stand up and make a difference, move over and let someone else that's ready to do the work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Craig May? Or Mann, I'm sorry.
Thank you. First off, my 17-year-old daughter does know everything. And I'm very proud of her, and as I embarrass her. Mine is a little different note. Patty DeBoer, thank you for your 29 years of service. I appreciate it. All three of my children have gone through Mashpee Public Schools. My daughter is the last one to go. You're a teacher, you're a principal, as a superintendent. Your steadfast leadership on the Till, greatly appreciated. You guided us through COVID. You've showed up to a ton of school events. You've gone to the football games, you've gone to the soccer games, you've gone to the theater performances, you've gone to the robotics tournaments, the proms. That's just to name a few. I'm sure there's many more that you have gone to. You've sent out emails all hours of the days that I've seen, and weekends. You support the arts, the extracurricular activities, all of those items. You've made difficult decisions that some people aren't happy with, but you have to make those decisions. You've always had the kids' interests at heart. I appreciate you. Congratulations. Good luck in your retirement. I've got something for you later. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlton Hendricks?
Good evening. Carlton Hendricks, Jr. And just for the record, I'm here in the capacity of a citizen, not from the vice chairman of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. I'm here for a different reason than what you guys are discussing. My daughter's sophomore in Mashpee, had a playoff lacrosse game Sunday. I had a meeting at 3:30 with the administration today regarding this incident. She was thrown out of the game. My whole family was escorted out of the game. She's a speaking captain. We've been experiencing racism throughout this whole year. There's just a lot of minorities on the lacrosse team, and we don't see that a lot out there. So the referees have been letting a lot of things go. Had this discussion with Treveri. I've been going through this with Matt Treveri for over 10 years. I've had this is the last of 5 children to come through the school system, so I've seen it all, good, bad, or indifferent. And this is pretty much we're at an all-time low as far as I'm concerned, as far as the school, this community, and what we got going on right now. So at the end of the day, the meeting went to nowhere. My daughter was thrown out. 2 minorities were thrown out of this playoff game with 2 yellow cards. My daughter was actually asked to get off the field, get off the bench, and escorted out. First I've ever seen that. She wasn't escorted out by Matt Treveri or the assistant AD or anybody. She was allowed to walk off the field by herself when this has never happened before. But yet, the athletic director called 3 police officers to escort the referees off the field. Now, I went to this meeting at 3:30 just to address the concerns with my wife, knowing that it was going to fall on deaf ears, nothing was going to happen of it. The only thing that came of that meeting, which was very disturbing to find out from Mr. Bohr at this meeting, that she told me, my family has been the most aggressive during sporting events. I found that very hard, very, very, very disappointing coming from somebody who over the years that she's been here, praises my family, take pictures with my family, give my family high regards. For her now to say this on her way out the door. Outside of that, the racism that goes on in this town, in this community, in this school is at an all-time high. What are we going to do about it? The school committee, 3 of you tonight have said, we don't know we don't know if we don't hear. I came to this board 3 years ago when my daughter was sexually assaulted and exposed by a gentleman on a Nantucket bus. I came to the school committee to address that issue. You knew about it 3 years ago. What policies or procedures have been implemented to stop that from happening to another female or another girl from then till now? I would say zero, because I haven't heard from not one person from this board or from the school to say, hey, this is what we implemented, this is the new rule that we implemented so it won't happen again. So when you tell me, or you tell us, we don't know if we don't hear, that's really not true, because you heard. You're hearing now. And I get the volunteer part. I understand that. I've been sitting on a tribal council over 10 years. I know what volunteering is like. But you asked to be voted and you asked to be elected into them seats. So you have to be held accountable. And hopefully, with the new superintendent coming in, we'll get rid of the good old boy system, that exists in the school system, and start listening to the parents. And we all have a voice instead of everybody just being secluded. Certain people are special, other people are not included. Hopefully this changes in the next superintendent and the next pick of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item in the agenda, which is recognition of retirees. Superintendent DeBoer.
So I'm not sure who is all here, but I do see some of our fabulous, so Suzanne Shea, come on up. We'll put you all together first, and then I'll talk about each of you. Meg Morrison, I know that she was here. Did she have to go? I'm sorry. I'll talk about her, though. Katie McBrien is here, so she can come up with Suzanne. Karen Wilson, are you here? I'll talk about Karen. And Elizabeth Babbage. I don't think. Okay. So 2 of you are here. First of all, we also have from the State House, although Representative Vieira couldn't be here this evening to present them, he normally does come. But it is, I will read one of them. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Katie McBrien and Suzanne Shea. Yes. Katie is recognized for 24 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee Public Schools and our entire community. Enjoy your retirement. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors, the 5th day of June, 2024. And probably 24 years might be slightly on the low side because I think Katie served in other capacities in the district as well. So that's your certificate. And Suzanne's says the same thing, except she has 26 years being recognized on this certificate. And so congratulations to you. I would like to say from my own personal journey being alongside these individuals as a teacher in various stages of wherever we happen to reside, whether it was the Quashnet River Valley or the Coombs School, or then it became merged. I have always been very impressed in any role that I've had with these 2 individuals. They receive high accolades from the students present day and those who come back to see them. They often are or have been recognized by our seniors. They have a way of connecting really well with our students. They see the whole child in front of them, not just the learner. They go above and beyond consistently, and day to day it can be very challenging to not only make sure you are taking care of all the aspects of every learner, but also making sure they're learning and covering the curriculum that they're expected to cover. So Suzanne is finishing up as a second grade teacher, but I think you've been a few other things. Kindergarten, first and second. So I'm not sure if you were part of the River at one time though, weren't you? I was the Valley girl. Valley. River Valley, those of you who remember, the school used to be 2 schools, 1 through 6 with 2 principals. That was interesting. Katie McBrien is ending her career as a 6th grade teacher, but she has also held other grade levels. What else did you teach?
I was a 5th grade teacher for many years, a 4th grade teacher for 1 year, and a writing specialist for 4 years.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Yes. And I think she might have been a substitute. Many of us start as substitutes. But on behalf of the school committee and really the community of Mashpee, we are so grateful for all that you've given to our children, our families. We are definitely going to miss you. You are hard shoes to fill, not only because of your level of expertise, but your knowledge and understanding of the community, which goes a long way to sort of creating that better experience for our kids. So we are going to greatly miss you, and I'm so grateful that I'm here tonight to be able to share in this with you. And thank you for coming, too. We're going to have to take a few pictures, so don't go anywhere yet. I just want to take your picture. Do you want to say anything?
Thank you, guys. You promised me was on this. I did. Well.
Do you have any plans for your retirement? Florida. Eventually, yes. Oh, yeah, let's stand in front of Brian.
I just want to say on behalf of the school committee, we appreciate and thank each and every one of you who are retiring for the years of service that you have put into the Mashpee schools and to the community. So thank you and good luck with your future endeavors.
Can I highlight the 3 people that aren't here very quickly?
Oh, sure.
So not with us tonight is actually Dave Ellison. I actually didn't read his name, so I don't know if his card's here. But Dave Ellison is a Mashpee Middle High School educator, and he will be greatly missed. Meg Morrison, we did mention her. She has been a 16-year counselor in this school, and any of you who have had the opportunity to interact with Meg, I think counselors are always a slightly different breed of individual, but they have a calming effect on everyone around them. And talk about someone who goes above and beyond for the health and wellness of students is Meg Morrison, so she'll be missed. And Karen Wilson is extraordinary paraprofessional at the Coombs School. She's mostly been paired up with Sharon Falone for many years, but she is another example of someone that puts students first and will do anything for our littlest learners. So thank you to those individuals.
Superintendent DeBoer, may I make one comment regarding folks that aren't present tonight? And first off, again, congratulations and thank you for your years of service. Obviously, very meaningful to our children and to our community. I just want to pause for a moment and just say, from a personal perspective, Miss Wilson has been a godsend to my son, Nathaniel, who has been in her class. And for a little boy who cried every time he was dropped off, probably for the first 3.5 months of his school, to blossom into a confident young man who's ready to move into, obviously, his next stage in the Mashpee school system. That would not be possible without the work that Ms. Falone and Ms. Wilson have done. So even though you're not here tonight, Ms. Wilson, thank you so much for your dedication to this community and specifically to our family.
All right. Moving on, we're going to go to the Student Advisory Committee Chair, Eve Mann. I've asked that she kind of do a recap of accomplishments, or actions, accomplishments, student issues, concerns, positives, and negatives, so that as she looks back on FY24, what can we learn for FY25? So, Eve, the floor is yours.
So bear with me. I wrote all of this using the district calendar, so I think the dates are correct, but I don't know. As of concerns right now, next year I'm really going to try to get involved with the kids in the younger schools. I don't really have time in my schedule right now to do that, but I hope to have a directed study or an independent study next year, which I'll really work on working with whoever our advisor is at that time to meet these kids and get to know them and bring my fellow student advisory committee members with me. So, good evening. As we approach the end of the 2023-2024 school year, these past weeks have been packed with many exciting moments. Last week, Quashnet students from grade 4, 5, and 6 all had their instrumental and vocal concerts. KCC students had fun at their field day events on both Tuesday and Wednesday of last week. Also, many of our amazing student athletes at the MMHS made it to tournaments for their respective sports. Last Friday and Saturday, we were able to celebrate the class of 2024 as they graduated into the next chapter of their lives. We will miss them greatly, but are so happy that they have achieved this great accomplishment. For this packed week, grades 9 and 10 completed their biology MCAS as of today. Grade 1 was scheduled for their cut day yesterday, a riveting experience that I remember from when I participated almost 10 years ago. All of Quashnet School had their field day today, which a new system did not just award them on winning games, but also their sportsmanship and positive behavior along the way. Moving on to tomorrow, the MMHS Music Department has the privilege of working with Alex Torres and his Latin Orchestra in workshops all day. Mr. Torres and his orchestra are performing at 6 tomorrow night at the Victoria L. Viering Performing Arts Center, and all proceeds will go to the Boys and Girls Club. There will then be a student performance for the whole school on Friday, where both the band and chorus will be performing alongside the orchestra. This is the third year that the orchestra has come, and it is always a fun and engaging performance for all the students and faculty. There's also the grade-wide Sea Perch field trip at Willow Bend for all of grade 5 on Friday. Next week is filled with many awards for all grades from Quashnet to Mashpee Middle High School as we highlight our amazing students in this district. We are all looking forward to this summer as we only have 6.5 days of school left, but for us middle and high school students, finals are just around the corner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? No? Brian? No? Okay. Next item on the agenda, Mashpee Middle High School French Immersion Experience in Nice, France. Teacher Lori Jensen.
Yes, it's pronounced with the Y. Jensen.
Jensen?
Jensen, yes.
Lori Jensen and Tim Rumberger.
Good evening, members of the school committee, Superintendent DeBoer and Assistant Superintendent Hanscom. Thank you for the privilege of being here tonight to present an exciting educational opportunity for our intermediate level French students. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review the documents related to this proposed trip to Nice, France during February vacation of 2025. This unique week-long immersion trip involves homestays, French instruction, and travel. If approved, our students would stay with vetted host families where they will use French to interact with native speakers, take part in authentic French meals, and practice their communication skills. Monday through Friday, students will attend leveled French classes with international students from around the world. Students will use French to collaborate, meet new people, and learn more about France and its culture. Each afternoon, students will visit different destinations in the Provence region. From medieval villages to Monte Carlo, students will discover the history and diversity of the area. This trip, while exciting and fun, will require a lot of work for our students. Our young people will be communicating and collaborating with a diverse group of people in another language. They will be young citizen representatives demonstrating resilience and problem-solving skills. They will need to be empowered knowledge seekers and critical thinkers. All these characteristics align with our portrait of a graduate competencies. International travel changes not only the way we see the world, but the way that we see ourselves. Mr. Rumberger and I believe this trip could be a life-changing experience for our students. If approved this evening, we could begin planning with parents and students before the end of the school year, lock in the initial price quotes, and reserve host families who live closest to the language school in Nice. We thank you for your consideration and welcome any questions.
I'll go, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this is fantastic. I did a very similar program back in the day at Falmouth High School. Best week ever. Je pense que c'est magnifique. So I am fully supportive of this, and I think any student who is able to do this, whether it's France, somewhere in a Spanish-speaking country, or whatever other language we end up eventually, hopefully, getting back into the school, I think this is a fantastic way, and as you said, I think it does open up the world. It does give us a different perspective, and you got my vote, for sure.
Dan, anything? Kelly? Brian, anything? You're good? Okay. So the only question I have, obviously I look at the details, and so I noticed on here this is a joint trip with Falmouth, and obviously you state in here that the price is dependent upon Falmouth. So have they approved this trip?
Susan Schmidt has a parent meeting tonight. They are moving forward. And the idea is that with 2 smaller districts on the Cape, that if we have 15 and they have 15, it brings the cost down for all of our students.
Can I add one thing to that? Is that okay? Can I borrow your mic? The assistant superintendent of Falmouth did reach out to me directly in the winter, right before the holiday break, to see if we would even have an interest in it. And it's something they've done before, so I would imagine it's going to be well received in Falmouth as well, because it's got the support of the central office administration.
Okay. That was really the only question is, if it was contingent upon Falmouth, I wanted to know where Falmouth stood on it. Mr. Umberger?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one quick thing. I was able to lead a trip similar to this one back in 2017, and as Ms. Jensen mentions, it's life-changing. Those students living with French families, speaking only French, really living the culture, is a great experience. And it's not tourism, it's really a learning experience, and it'll change them forever in a good way.
All right. Any other questions? Do I have
One more.
one more question from Kelly?
There are, trying to find the right, like they would have to be academically eligible and all that stuff to be able to attend this trip.
Yes.
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 Just like any other activity. All right. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just wondering, do you have a plan in place for financially challenged families to still have their child participate?
We would love to work with the community to be able to do fundraising. I know that there's a lot of great fundraising opportunities between the Falmouth Road Race and also the Cape Cod Marathon in the fall that we've worked with before through various sports teams, and I would begin pursuing that immediately.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the Nice, France immersion experience for February school vacation of 2025.
And I will second.
All right. Motion by Kathy, second by Dan. Any discussion? Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I vote yes too. Hope you have a great trip. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bon voyage.
Thank you.
Next item of business is approval of minutes from April 3rd, 2024, and also May 15th, 2024, and May 22nd, 2024.
Can we do them all together? Or do they have to be one?
We could do them as a calendar, so they could be all done together, unless there's changes.
Just a slight change to the meeting minutes for May 22nd, and it's more on the petty side. If you could just change my name to Dan, not Don, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then they will be precise, as they usually are. Yeah.
All right. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes with the edits proposed by Dan, who no longer wants to be called Don?
Not to confuse the process.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Kathy, second by Kelly. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Brian, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Abstain?
I
Dan?
vote yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too. All approved. Thank you. Do we have a representative from the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe here? I don't see him. Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update on the interim superintendent search. Dan, Kelly, and Eve were hard at work this past couple of weeks, or week and a half, I guess. Who wants to give the report?
Kelly, would you like to present, or would you like me to start?
Okay, you can start.
All right. So I've been very excited to work alongside Kelly and Eve as we look at the interim superintendent candidates. Just as a reminder for folks who may be just tuning in, we have been in the process of looking at external candidates to fill kind of a one-year tenure as we look at really building in alliance with our community and constituents and stakeholders, the perfect vision of what we would like to see in our next incoming incoming superintendent. Through the process, we have sat as a smaller group to look at the prospective 7 candidates that were presented to us for review. After lots of lovely discussion, I think our group is excited to move 2 candidates up to the school committee level to be able to hopefully bring in, have open dialogue and interview at an open session where individuals will be able to come, hear, understand, and know what these interim superintendents are able to offer our district in the short term. So we have already presented those folks to the office as well as to our chair for advancing and moving forward.
Okay.
The task that we were given, like Wendy had said in the beginning, I've been sitting in the seat for 29 days. Dan's only been here for a year. It was very interesting. And we did our work. And we thoroughly, between myself, Eve, and Dan, vetted these 2 people that we're going to bring in front of you. Because we do believe that, change needs to be made. And we need to move forward. Again, they'll only be here for a year, but if we can put the right captain at the ship to steer the boat in the right direction, when we do go out and find the permanent superintendent, they kind of just got to take over and keep going in the right direction that we need to go. So I hope that all of our stakeholders approve of the choices that we've made and see that we do have our students, number one, and our community in their best interest at heart in the choices that we do make, because you have entrusted us in that, and we're excited to see what they have to say.
All right, thank you. Eve, do you want to make any comments?
I learned a lot. Not only about what you should do when you apply for a job. I've only applied for one job, and I've been in that job since I applied for it. But when I go to, as I heard people call it, go get a big girl job, I've learned what to do. I've learned what to say. I've learned what not to say. And Dan and Kelly were amazing at just leading me through the process and saying, okay, so what do you think here? What should we look here? It was a lot of discussion. We probably sat, I don't know, for about an hour. And they were amazing with stuff going on. I'm not incredibly available right after school right now, but they were incredible with being able to adapt to my schedule and meeting with me and really teaching me what I should look for. So I'm very grateful for that.
And just to say, your opinion was incredibly important in that discussion.
Yes, it was.
So thank you for your willingness and dedication to being a voice, obviously, for this interim position.
All right, well, thank you for your due diligence in doing an incredible job, particularly in a relatively short period of time. You have a question?
When will the remaining 2 members of the committee
That's coming
That's
right
all right,
up.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking my speed.
Sorry.
So Dan, Eve, and Kelly, at this point, there's only 3 that have actually seen or the resumes or the information for the candidates. So all I know is there's a male and a female. I think that's correct.
Yes.
But that's all I know about the candidates. I wanted to stay out of the process, let them do their work that they've been assigned to, which I'm sure that they've done fabulously. But having heard from the subcommittee that they were going to be bringing 2 candidates forward, I did ask Sherry to reach out to the 2 candidates to, 1, ensure that they were still available, number 2, that they were interested, and then number 3, that they would be available to meet with the committee to do a Q&A session and to try to find a date that possibly would work with this committee and work with them. And Sherry, I believe the date that worked at least for the candidates is next Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30 p.m. So I ask each of you on the committee if you'll be able to hold that date in order to have the interviews with the candidates. You will receive all of the information that we have regarding the 2 candidates and their submissions so that you can review that prior to the meeting. I believe, one thing that we need to talk about, I think each member needs to come up with questions that they want to ask these 2 individuals. I guess I'm open in regard to whether you want to share those questions in advance or if you want to do them in the open session. There are advantages and disadvantages to both processes.
Well, in all fairness, we agreed when we were going to question the internal candidates that we would give them ahead of time. So I don't see what the issue would be with that.
Well, recognizing the short time frame, I think what we need to do is get our act together to figure out what we're going to be doing, and obviously getting feedback from members outside of this committee around, again, what interests do they have in learning more about it. I think we have a good sense of what that is, but better understanding that piece. I do see where you're coming from, Mr. Chair, in the sense that there are advantages and disadvantages. I also feel as though some of the questions that when Kelly, Eve, and I sat and started to talk about what would we be looking for from what we heard are very packed questions, which I think someone can answer those on the fly, but I also think it does take some time to truly consider and suss through how you would answer some of these really meaningful questions. So my recommendation tonight would be to be able to provide a list of questions to the candidates so that they have an opportunity to fully answer them. And it will be our responsibility, obviously, to ferret out kind of the response and what we feel with that.
Can I make a suggestion off of that recommendation? Rather than say, here's the exact set, could we submit a series of questions that is at our discretion then to pick and choose from? So it's not necessarily a known, here's 20 questions we're going to ask you, but rather here's 20 questions, we might ask you 10. Like something along that line. Not as those numbers are arbitrary and totally just numbers I pulled out of thin air, but rather than saying here's a full set, but give them the full set, but then we pick and choose based on how the interview goes, what questions we feel we might want to ask.
Well, I do feel that the questions, if we're going to ask candidate A a question,
Agreed.
we should be asking candidate B
Agree.
the same question from a fairness perspective.
But I think what Kathy's saying is don't give them, like if we're gonna ask them 10 questions, don't give them the exact 10 questions we're gonna ask.
Yes.
Give them 15 questions and say, we're gonna ask each of you 10 of these 15 questions, but we're still gonna ask each candidate the same question.
Yes.
And to piggyback off Kelly, I think that like any interview process, I think that there's also intricacy of connecting to, maybe a statement that's made. So I think that there also needs to, in that process, be some liberty to, if something kind of perks one of our ears, to be able to be a little bit more inquisitive and dig a little bit further. So if we can present this in a way that does promote the fact that we are going to have kind of a standard set, but that there may be some questions that kind of arise from their responses as follow-ups, I think that that would be important to prepare those individuals for as well.
Brian, your thoughts, please?
No, I agree everything that's been said. I'm really looking to everybody else, Dan, Kelly, and Eve, helping with this process. So I'm fine with discussion.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I could go honestly either way. I think if we prepare a set of, let's say, 15, and I'm just using an arbitrary number, that would be roughly 3 questions per person, and then out of that 15, if 10 were actually used.
And I will say I'm excited to prepare my questions, recognizing that sadly, not knowing the date prior to tonight, I am chairing an alternative meeting that evening. So I will not personally be present for that, given the timing of it. But with that being said, I'm happy to present the questions that I have.
Well, that raises a good question of whether we will at least definitely have a quorum, and then ideally we would have all members be able to participate. That was one date that was given, and obviously we're trying to expedite the process. Let me just poll the other members to make sure that they would be available on that date. Brian, would you be available?
No, I believe I have a tribal council meeting that evening.
Okay. So I think that makes it pretty much a non-starter. We'll have to go back. Can we collectively, though, come up with at least a couple dates?
Tuesdays are a no.
So,
Sorry, I can't do Tuesday.
okay, so Tuesdays are no's.
Sherry, was there any other dates that they were both available that were?
That was the comments, not any other.
But we were only looking out in the very short term. Through the month, was that through the whole month of June?
And I was looking at other events going on in the district, and evening events that were going on in the district, so that it wouldn't conflict. I don't know if that's a criteria for you or not, but.
I guess it depends on what the event was. Right?
I mean, this is something that is a very important decision that we need to make, unfortunately, sooner rather than later, to try to figure out what our next steps are going to be. So, I mean,
I have the district calendar up. It looks like the week of the 17th. You're talking evening, right?
Yes.
Evenings look okay.
I offered a few dates up that week. The only one, I'm just looking at my notes, I'm sorry. June 12th was when they were both available. I also offered June 10th, which they were not available, and June 26th, neither was available. So I certainly can reach back out to them for an alternate date.
is there any day next week where they would be? I know, Kathy, you said no Tuesdays, right?
Unfortunately, no. I
So
have work
Thursday,
obligations.
Friday?
I was going to even
Are
say a
they-
Saturday. I mean, I'd be willing to even look at a Saturday personally.
I'm certainly willing to reach back out to them. Just
I
gives me opportunity.
That's
I
fair.
doubt I would be able to do a Saturday,
Fair enough.
unfortunately.
I don't know if we're trying to stick to a Wednesday just because that's practice, or if there's any day during the week, that we can pick.
I was just looking at the district calendar, trying to avoid other night events.
Okay.
The 10th, we have charter review, and we have the charter review on that Monday of the 24th is charter review as well?
I think so.
So the 10th and the 24th are charter review.
Those are Mondays.
So those are Mondays, so Dawn and I would not be available those two.
Are you open to a Friday? Like, what about the 14th? Is that not a good day for people?
I'm fine with,
Could you do 14th is the last day of school, yeah?
Yes.
Brian?
There are no night events.
June 14th is good for you? All right, so June 14th is a tentative.
Is there one more that you'd like to offer, or what does the 17th look like, Monday? Only because Sherry, I'm looking at I hope that's okay. Of course,
I'm fine with the 17th.
17 is fine.
17th sounds good. Brian, 17th of June? Okay, is that good for you?
It's a Monday.
Yes.
That would work?
And that for me is more favorable than the 14th.
Okay,
maybe start with this.
You would like to do them both on the same evening, or?
yes. Yeah, I think the format would be candidate A would be interviewed. Candidate B would not be in the room. Candidate B would then come in and be interviewed.
Thank you.
Any more questions on that process? We will get the information out to all of the committee members. I believe, Sherry, you have that?
I'm sorry.
The information on the candidates? Okay, so you can provide copies to the members. All right. Anything else on that subject? Let's move on then to the report of the superintendent.
So you do have the enrollment page in there. You have the report of the athletic director, the outreach coordinator. We did have our partnership meeting yesterday, the quarterly partnership meeting, very productive. We're looking forward to, at the joint school committee tribal council meeting on July 10th, I believe. We have spent about 2 years working on a truancy agreement between the schools and the tribe. So we'll be excited to have that signed off at that point. And obviously, we'll accumulate the highlights from this year, which is year 7, of having a group meet quarterly to put plans in place. So it was a pretty productive meeting, I think. I don't know if you were looking for the principals to speak. I think Eve covered quite a bit. I just want to acknowledge Principal Switzer with today's field day for Quashnet. It was a little change up of how it's been done, and so it was an all-day event with stations, and what Eve was referencing is the fact that they work together as homerooms to accumulate points at each station, so then at the end of the day there could be sort of recognitions, and they were really cool activities, and so thank you to Principal Switzer and PE teacher Kurt Morris, and probably a large team of people who contributed to making it very successful, including the weather gods who kept it beautiful today.
I can comment on that from, my kids are at Quashnet, and what I've heard from their friends. Mr. Switzer, you're amazing. Thank you for spending as much time and dedication as you do on things like this. If they don't tell you, they love you and they appreciate it.
Can I just add, his daughter was wearing a matching onesie to his shirt today.
That is amazing.
With popsicles. With popsicles. Sorry. She's super cute.
And the last thing I would like to acknowledge too is I believe this will be Principal McSweeney's last meeting in her role as the principal of Mashpee Middle High School. Her last day is June 14th, and I just want to express my appreciation for all that she's done for the district and for the school, and for the fact that she came into our world. She has a wealth of experience as a leader, of a building leader, and then in other capacities, and I believe that she has made some significant improvements to the Mashpee Middle High School that will live beyond her time here as part of her legacy, such as one single night of honor instead of individual honor society inductions, the program of studies day for students, because that's really what it's all about. Graduation had a few changes this year that our Principal McSweeney's, and the fact of the big change is the fact that student schedules were issued to them today, no teacher names, but now everyone knows what their schedule is for next year. Teachers know what they're teaching, and that will live on that practice long after her time here. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
And, Superintendent DeBoer, may I just add one more thing? I also do want to take a moment to thank the leadership of KCC, Quashnet, and the PTOs for putting together a fabulous Kickers Cup kickball game about a week ago, maybe a little more. The time is getting blurry. But it was a beautiful community event that brought the two schools together. Really fun, positive, competitive opportunity. So thank you to all the leaders that were involved and PTO members.
I just want to also comment on that. Our kids aren't just competitive. Their parents are too, and their teachers are, and their principals are. We did show good sportsmanship. We teased each other a little bit, but I can say, as a 47 almost year-old woman, I woke up the next day and I could not move. It is so exciting and it is so fun. And our kids really do enjoy watching us play the game that they love. They want to play too, but unfortunately it's our turn. So spread it out, spread the word. You know, it happens every year. Every year. Coombs Gush is Quashnet. I only have one more year, and then I'm up to the high school. So pass it along to everybody. You know, the more people that come out, the more fun we have. Thanks, guys.
And unfortunately, I can't kick a ball, but I can catch it okay. So more advancing for next year in preparation. So just putting that out there for the competition next year.
We need a better field.
Okay, our chair stepped away, so I will continue on with the meeting. Up next, we have the report of the Director of Finance, so Ms. Lopes.
Good evening. In your packet is the FY24 budget report. I did not receive any questions prior to the meeting. Are there any now? Awesome. My next item is the FY25 budget. At this time, I do not have any updates. It was approved at town meeting. And my final update is on the HVAC projects throughout the district. The Casey Coombs project has started this week. They are gearing up to start on the second floor. We have had 3 respondents to our engineering and design requests for proposals. We are interviewing those candidates on Friday, and we should have a vendor moving forward. They will be doing the design and the engineering for the high school and Quashnet. That will give us better estimates to move forward with a construction project.
Excellent.
Are there any questions?
Those projects are going to run concurrently, or will we be focusing on the high school, then Quashnet, or is there a priority to that? I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since we started this whole HVAC project.
Definitely. So that's a part of the conversation.
Okay.
Some of the schedules that have come in have it running concurrently,
Okay.
but we also want to make sense that when the projects will be done, so the schools will be open for students to return in the fall, and also what the most cost-effective option is.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure parents and families at the Coombs School will be happy to hear that there will be more seasonable temperatures in the classrooms and not very hot ones.
May I ask
yes.
less of a budget question and more of an operations? Just for the rest of folks and individuals who may be tuning in, my understanding is that the playgrounds are also going to be impacted. Is this due to HVAC repairs at the at KCC for the summer?
We're shutting down KCC over the summer. Everything has been moved to the Quashnet School. Currently, the Quashnet School playground, there is a section closed because they're getting new surfacing in that area. We do not have any intentions of using those playgrounds, so they will be doing staging and they will have it roped off. I don't know the exact location at this point, but I will have the vendor create a map so we can share it to the public on what that will look like.
Thank you. I know it's heavily utilized, obviously, by families of little ones during the summer, so just wanted to thank you for being able to get that information out.
Yeah, if we could coordinate too with the rec department and make sure that they are spreading that word as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kelly, did you have any questions? Okay. All right, moving on, specifically assigned unfinished business. We were given tonight the results of our school committee self-evaluation. We do this every year to gauge our progress, our work, where we as a committee see ourselves. And this year we are fortunate to have 2. I think, or do we get both, or we only get the one?
Oh, tonight you only have the one that matches last year's, but I can print out the other one as well.
No, that's fine. So we will, this is the first we're looking at these results, and I believe we'll be going more in depth with them at our retreat in August, because these are what inform our goals for the coming year. So please take them home, review them, and kind of make note of where you think we can improve on things. So, speaking of, that dovetails right into the next item, the school committee summer retreat. We're scheduled right now for August 7th from 4 to 7 p.m. We are hoping that our student advisory committee, I don't know if you have additional members yet, but if you do at that time, let them know. But we're hoping, we know that Ms. Mahan will not be here. Hopefully she will be somewhere fun. But if Paige and Marielle, if you guys are able to come, we would love to have your input, because again, that's where we kind of shape our goals for the year, and it could be helpful for you as a student advisory committee to also shape your goals for the year based off of the conversations and what we do. It's, you know, pretty informal. It's not as formal as this, but it's definitely, you're welcome, and we would love to have you there. So if you have time on that day and you're here, please come. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Brian, any questions? Any? Good? Okay. All right, moving on to new business. Oh, Eve. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think we're going to have new members by the end of the year, just with everything been going on. We haven't been able to actually get people to come to the meetings.
Fair enough.
But I trust that if Marielle and Paige can make it, they will. And I will just need them to update me when I have availability back. So.
All right.
Can I ask a question on that?
Oh, hold on. Yeah.
Are there like certain guidelines we need to follow? Do they have to be in a certain grade, or do we have a deadline?
So the only deadline per the statute, like the state law, is to have your chair elected. The group of students, it's 5, so the 3 of you, you need 2 more members. They can be from any grade level in the building, really. I mean, you could even get 7th or 8th graders if you wanted, but you can open it up to the whole school.
I did ask one 8th grader, and she seemed interested, so.
That was my question, actually. Has it gone out to the students that it is
Yeah,
an
I was going to ask,
opportunity?
has it been a builders club
I have
announcement?
I have a 9th grader who I know is super interested, but didn't,
I know.
said that it hadn't gone in, like he hadn't seen anything, so how does that happen? Sorry.
We'll have to get it out. We might be switching advisors next year, so our whole thing is in a weird loop right now. And I'll have to contact Andrew just to see what he did. The problem is that we're not always allowed to, we can't email the students, so it has to go through Mr. Brody, and then that has to be kind of approved, and so it's a whole process. So yeah, once we get back, I don't believe we're going to be able to do it just with finals and everything coming up, but once we get back, it'll be very on the top of my plate.
And I just want to make sure it is open to everyone. You know, like, I mean, you can have people come to, like, yes, it's 5 of you that kind of put your heads together, but, you know, keep in mind some of the things we've been talking about, like diversity, making sure we're representing the student body as best as we can, and, you know, like Dr. Hanscom said, I know a few 9th graders actually who are interested. Yeah. That's just because I know 9th graders. So
some of them have talked to me, and I'm like, I need to get back to you.
Yeah.
But
so,
no, yeah.
But I'm sure there's other students. So, like, to your point, Paige, like, there's no real way to, I mean, you can have a formal election if you wanted. Like, if you find that you've got like 6 kids who want to do it, have a formal election. But if you've only got 2 who raise their hand to step up, no election needed. So I guess that would be my advice, is if you got a ton of people who are like, we want to be on the school committee, yeah, take it.
Once you're elected, are you allowed to stay on the committee until you graduate?
Yes.
So there's no re-election?
Unless you're, I mean, again, there's no real guidance in the law. It's pretty much once you're elected, you're on. The only real election is for the chair. So, you know, if you wanted to step down, or if you were like, I've done it for 2 years, I'll let someone else do it, but that's totally up to you. Again, the law is pretty, it leaves a little wiggle room, I guess, because if people move or how things, kind of how it works is how I interpreted it, but I'm not a lawyer, so.
You know more than I do, so I'll take your word for it.
All right, the chair stepped back, so it's your meeting, sir. Oh, yeah. We are at new business. First item.
All right. In front of the committee members, you have the Mashpee Public School Wellness Policy for school year 24-25. This is a second read. A second read will be done on July 24th with a vote on that date, it looks like. So this is your first read. If anyone has any questions at this point?
I have one quick question, and I thought I saw Nurse, oh, there you are. Like, I know you're over there. I was reading, I'm sorry. Will there be alternative means to obtain water if, like, are we gonna have cups, water bottles, or?
Correct. Good
like,
evening.
not
So,
the plastic, but like
correct.
reusable ones?
for those of you who don't know, I'm Stacy Skokel, school nurse. Casey Coombs, and the district nurse coordinator. I'm here representing our district wellness policy, and Kathy and Kristen, our food service and assistant food service director, asked if I could jump in today for them. So the answer is yes. There always has been, always will be water at all grade levels. The only change to the policy is we're no longer selling it at Quashnet, but there's always access to water. And our buildings have water refilling stations now too, which are working out really great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is bottled water is only offered at the middle high school?
For sale at the middle high school.
Okay.
Our current policy reads that we sell it at Quashnet, and
Oh, okay.
so we're just cleaning that up.
Okay.
That was the only change this year. The guidance for national wellness and wellness policies will be changing for next year, so I'll be back. But for right now, that's the only change that we're needing to be in compliance for.
Any other questions? Nope. All right, so this is the first read. There's also a first read on the concussion policy, page 29 of your packet. Any questions?
I wanted to ask, I know we've got a couple student athletes here that have done the new concussion testing. Was it vastly different? Like, did you read this policy change? Like, more interactive. It was easy. It was pretty easy.
The old test, you just kind of sat at a computer and did a lot of memory stuff, but this stuff had like cognitive stuff involved with it.
Okay.
So it involved like balance, where you put your phone on your chest and it would ask you to stand on one foot and measure how stable you were. So I feel like it's a better representation.
Continue.
Thank you.
I saw what was happening. I was not participating in it. I was very confused. It's like, why are there a bunch of people standing in the cafeteria? But I can definitely say I took the old concussion test this year, and it was very nerve-wracking because I have a horrible memory, and so taking it, it's a very like fast-paced thing, and I've been told you can fail it, which maybe should not be told to kids, but it can be very nerve-wracking for some students who might not have that immediate response to things, because it's very much like how fast can you react to something, and it was putting me through a lot of stress. So I was like, Mom, I don't know what I'm doing. This is too fast. But I think that hopefully the interactive one will give it a better look of when kids actually do have concussions and give them a better.
I only asked because I noticed that's one of the changes, correct?
Correct, and that is the primary change. I mean, there's other wording and things. I'm also here, Matt and Nicolette say hello, but we all work on these things together along with Nurse Jen. So yes, and feedback from national with this new test has been the same that you all are sharing, so good. And it just is more in streamline with that, and Dr. Parkinson is aware and gave us his blessing too at our last health advisory, so.
Thank you.
So no further questions on the two policies. We'll move on then to next item, which is adoption of the mask resolution prohibiting the use of Native American mascots. You have a copy of the resolution in front of you. This was initially approved back in 2021, and I guess guess, Kathy, these expire every 3 years?
Yes, and the reason behind the expiration of these legislation resolutions is to kind of ensure that what MASC, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, which is our kind of association that every school committee member in Massachusetts is a part of, they help lobby and support legislation across the board on a variety of topics. And the reason that they will expire, I was trying to bring up the email, which the Wi-Fi in here is being the Wi-Fi in here, so it's not necessarily working. But it's basically to keep it fresh and make sure that, you know, if something is sitting for too long, maybe it's time to put it aside. But as Mr. Whedon pointed out, this is something I think Mashpee definitely, I fully agree with him that, you know, this resolution about prohibiting the use of Native American mascots is definitely something that aligns with Mashpee. It is something I think that very much does need to remain on the resolutions list for the meeting in November when we vote as a group to push these items through, for us to not allow it to be removed. There are still school districts, Braintree, Saugus. I didn't get a full list, but I know that there definitely are still school districts that are using Native American mascots. And I think if we can support this, again, thank you, Brian, for picking this up. And, you know, there were a few others, but I think this one definitely aligns best with our district.
So ideally, this then goes to our representatives at the State House, and they, in theory, should be taking some sort of action.
So there is, sometimes there is a bill already associated with these resolutions. So the support of MASC is to say that we support this particular bill. If there is not yet a bill, then yes, it would go to our representatives to then support legislation that would help make the changes necessary within the Commonwealth. And this is, again, voted on. We have our annual MASC meeting in November, and our delegation, which is representative of all school committees within the Commonwealth, vote on which resolutions to put forward. So if we vote for this, just as ourselves, the process then is we tell the legislative committee for MASC, the resolutions committee, I'm sorry, at MASC that we have adopted this and we would like to adopt it. It would then go to the MASC resolution committee as a whole, and then the MASC board of directors for their approval. However, if we approve it and then can get 5 other communities, either in our area or within the Commonwealth, to also pass the adoption of this resolution, it bypasses MASC's resolution committee and MASC's board of directors and goes directly to the floor of the delegate assembly in November.
All right, and it looks like the last time, in 2021, when this was put forth to the membership.
Correct.
It was approved 82 to 9.
Correct.
Okay.
I was at that meeting, and
Okay.
there wasn't a lot of debate on it. It pretty much passed without too much issue.
Right.
And I believe we, at that time, also voted to support this resolution, and I know that's how I voted on the floor at that meeting, so.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
All right. Hearing no more discussion, do I have a motion to approve supporting Mask Resolution 9?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion to approve the mask resolution prohibiting the use of Native American mascots.
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion by Dan and a second by Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I vote yes too, so unanimous. Hopefully they'll get something done on this time. All right. Next item is just a check-in, we've got on our calendar the July 10th joint meeting with the Tribal Council. Is that everyone
correct.
still able to attend?
So,
Yes.
Okay. Brian, is that going to be a joint agenda? Do we need to provide anything other than what we've done historically, which is primarily a recap?
We'll make sure we coordinate the agenda with the superintendent and staff.
Okay, thank you. All right. Our next school committee meeting is, regular meeting is scheduled for July 24th at 5:30 here at the Quashnet Library. Obviously, as we talked earlier in regard to the interim superintendent Q&A and hopefully selection, that meeting will be scheduled here in June as soon as we can get dates that will conform with everybody. And we'll try to find the first earliest date that works for everybody.
I'm waiting for the items the chair did not reasonably know. I have two things.
All right, next. Items that the chair did not reasonably know in advance. Patty, do you have something?
So I believe on one version of this agenda, I had seen it, but it's not on this one. But June 10th is supposed to be the fourth quarterly Zoom with 2 members, which is next Monday from 7 to 8. I know that Dan was one of the members, and then there was a blank in your set of goals. It was not a agenda-driven meeting. You had yet to develop it with sort of reflection or whatever. I don't know if you're still planning to have that. If you are, we need to attend to that tonight. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, and this was on one, but we took it off because I couldn't find it, and then we found it. But MASC runs their Summer Institute for any school committee member. It's July 12th and 13th, so it's a Friday night from 4 to 5:15, and then it's a Saturday from 9 to 11:45, so half a day. It's in Marlborough, Massachusetts. If you are interested and want to go, it's $90 if you do both days, but has a lot of good information. I don't know if you received this card from MASC. Probably Kelly hasn't because she's not new to the mailing list. If you want to go, let Sherry know and she can get you registered. Do you want to look at it? It has a lot of great topics for, obviously, school committee members. So,
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to request an agenda item, if possible, for a future meeting.
Sure.
I would like to request that we review our bullying and harassment policy along with Massachusetts general laws pertaining to how that all works. If we could get that on an agenda, just to do our due diligence and make sure that we are still, doing what we need to be doing in light of, what we've heard tonight, just to review it and maybe even have more of an open conversation about actually what that policy entails, some of the reasons why, information is and isn't shared, kind of really, I guess, dig into it in some level. I just feel like, the public has spoken, and I do feel that we need to kind of listen and maybe have a more open and frank discussion about that at a policy level. Again, I know I've looked at the policy many, many times, very much in detail, but there may be people out there who don't know it as well as we on this committee do. And I guess I'm just wondering if maybe that's something as an agenda item we could open up a conversation.
Well, do we want to bring that to the full committee or take it to the policy subcommittee, which would do a review? That would be the normal process.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to refer it to the policy subcommittee for them to review first, but I do feel that it should be brought to a full committee discussion, whether after a review or prior to. I know usually we do have policy, we usually refer policy changes. I guess I'm wondering if this is something that the committee as a whole should look at as opposed to the subcommittee, but I defer to the board, the committee rather, and what their thoughts are, but I just wanted to put that on the table as something I think we definitely need to look at and discuss.
Well, it's possible we could do a review and then, based upon that review, if there are recommendations, those could be then sent to the policy subcommittee for further enhancement and changes that may be necessary to incorporate those in the policy. I think that would probably work.
And also, I guess, in that request, if we could get information on, more detailed, I know we've talked about No Place for Hate, but maybe get some more detailed information on that program, how that's integrated and aligns with, I guess I want to look kind of district-wide at the programs and the policy and alignment, which I feel confident in. I feel confident we're in alignment with the letter of the law. I guess I'm more concerned on, are there ways to improve or enhance? And I would like, to get feedback from faculty, staff, administration as well, because they're the ones ultimately enforcing that and those policies. So I know that's a big ask at the end of the school year, but I guess I'm just, those are my thoughts. So I'll leave it at that.
Can I add something? So the bullying prevention and intervention plan that all districts are required to have gets revised every 2 years. So I believe it's due in December of this year. We also do update our policies regularly based on MASC guidance. And once we have our policy ready for your review, our attorney looks at it. I might suggest we do an annual training with our attorneys in terms of bullying, the laws, what an administrator can and cannot do. It might be helpful, because that seems to be a lacking information piece for the public, to have our attorney come and do a presentation in public for you that everyone is welcome to come to, so that they understand the laws in Massachusetts that our administrators have to follow.
Can she include, I'm assuming it will be Sarah, so that's why I'm saying she, can she include communication guidelines along with that? Because I believe communication guidelines in instances like this, from my recollection, there's a lot that, unfortunately, and I know people are going to roll their eyes as I say this, cannot be said. There are nuances, there are layers to these situations that not everyone is aware of. A lot of stuff of what I read, again, we as a committee are privileged to some information that is confidential and we cannot share it. And seeing some of the things that get said sometimes, like you want to say, oh, that's not correct. That's not the right information. And I guess I would like that piece to also be shared with the public so that they understand that, we are not in the business of sweeping things under a rug, and that it really is, there are legal ramifications to things that we say as a committee and as a district. So I guess I would like to make sure that that is included in whatever presentation we get.
I think part of the challenge for families and parents, and I could wear a parent hat, is when something happens to their child, they do not know the consequences for the other child, and therefore that feeds into the narrative that the Mashpee Public Schools does nothing in terms of addressing bullying, and that is not true, but we cannot disclose what consequences are given for other students.
And sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say that also means, though, there could be room for potential improvement.
Right.
And again, as a parent who has experienced some of the pitfalls of this policy, there's always room for improvement. I guess that's the bottom line. So.
And I understand, and I'll put my parent hat on right now, with the situation that I went through with my own child being bullied in the school system. I understand that the administration can't say, oh, they got suspended, oh, they got detention, oh, we expelled them from school. But not saying anything is even worse. So even just telling the parents that, to the point of there are consequences that this child is facing for their actions, that simply, honestly, may satisfy people.
That generally is the practice of principals, to say that exact line. But anyway.
I think that's a good idea.
Yep. Yeah, I think
There's-
having an
there's-
attorney
yeah,
explain
yeah.
things.
There's a lot of unfortunate legal issues, and with the state of Massachusetts and the new laws that they passed within the past couple of years, every child does deserve an education, but every child deserves to be safe too. So we as a committee have to figure out the policies that we have in place and how to make sure that those policies are followed.
I agree with that.
And that's going to be a challenge.
Yes, and I also do, though, and I'm staring into nothingness for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts here, but I think that there's also, again, coming back to how do we communicate around what we can and can't communicate, and I guess what I have heard tonight, and I would love to, once again, formally, in some fashion, glean this knowledge, is what do our families really feel as though is important to hear? What do they feel as though is quote-unquote over-communication? What do they think is under-communication? How do we percolate that information and then run it against, what is appropriate, allowable, legal, and figure out how we can then either educate or adjust or shift, whatever it may be, to support those pieces? Because I think that, we've heard from the group that, it's lovely, and I love it, to be able to receive those Portrait of a Graduate images, because that really does highlight, the amazing work that our students do and our faculty, and yet, maybe for some individuals that is not exactly what they're looking for, right? And how do we take those glimmers and make it palatable for all of our constituents? Sorry, that was a roundabout way of saying I would like to hear formally in some fashion from our community of what is important, what is less important but exciting to see, and how do we run that against the legalities of what we need to do as a committee and ultimately as a superintendent's office.
All right, so.
Brian, anything to have?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can I say something?
Sure, go ahead, Brian.
I do believe that this needs to be an agenda item for us to address as a committee. I think that outside of the policies, we should be trying to do a lot more. I think that we should look at implementing a task force to address some of these concerns. All of us are various liaisons to certain committees, so on and so forth, or working group. And I think that some of this can tie into that, but I think that we can hear from the community, the parents, maybe get the human rights club and some of the students on there, the town's diversity and inclusion committee, also looking at resources and tools that we can give to make sure that we have those resources on hand to help with these situations, as well as looking at the plan that Superintendent DeBoer had talked about that gets revised every 2 years. Not too long ago, I know that we had an initiative, National Cares Initiative. It seems like that was more focused on drugs and some of the activities that was going on at the time. But that was something that we did work on as a school district in collaboration with the town. I think that that's where we need to head and have that approach, so that we have a dedicated group of community members, faculty, staff, and students to really address these issues and to help us outside of the policies. I understand that we enact policies, but I believe that this is too important of an issue for us to make decisions on behalf of everyone. But everyone that's been there tonight that wants to step up and address this concern, it could be community events. I think that we should caution ourselves to make sure that not 3 of us are there to constitute a quorum, whether there was one liaison or 2 representatives from the school committee, along with the student elected official as well. But that would be my recommendation, so we can really address this issue and continue to stay on top of it and not just, let it go fall to the wayside, which has clearly been something that we've heard, a recurrent theme throughout today's meeting. Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can I piggyback off Brian for just a moment here? I really like that approach because I think it also speaks to some of the comments made by the committee earlier tonight about how do we involve, obviously, our families and community members and what we have heard from individuals who are still in this room and have been in this room tonight is vocalizing their concerns and desires and feeling as though there's not a right fit. What I think of, to Brian's point, is communities such as Falmouth, Barnstable, and Sandwich, for their opioid remediations funds, have really worked to create kind of cafe-style models where they can bring in a facilitator to be able to construct meaningful dialogue with focus groups and a whole variety of things to get to the meat and potatoes of how to best utilize their resources in this city.
Thinking about how we can take and put some of these in action so that we can make some progress on it. Right now, our next regularly scheduled meeting is not till July 24th. I sense that we really probably don't want to wait till July 24th to try to take some action on this. So that being said, we would need to schedule, and we're also going to lose, due to the summer, a lot of resources that you had mentioned, or was mentioned here, in regard to parents' interests, students, faculty, etc., over the summer. So sooner versus later is obviously a step up, but I think we need to, in order to enact something like that, we need to come up with really a solid term of reference of what that group would do if we're going to ask to create a task force, if we're going to go to the select board, ask for their participation from a town perspective. You know, I'm not sure who our liaison is this year from the select board, but what's that? Is it Tom?
I don't know.
I don't. They haven't reached out as far as I'm aware, but we would need reaching out to them. But I think we need to kind of flesh out what it is we're wanting to try to accomplish, and maybe. And I hate to do this. Maybe that gets adjoined to the agenda that we're going to create for the next meeting.
I'll be honest, I think it needs to be select board, town manager, police, fire, emergency workers. We need the community buy-in. We need all of those in charge to set, we talked about modeling. We need those people. We need them at the table. It does not necessarily need to be a formal thing. I think it does need to be a more conversational thing where we are able to, you know, again, I read a lot of stuff over the last 2 days. Some of it was rather vitriolic, but I get it. Everyone was upset. Everyone was outraged, and I understand why the language was the language, what the language was. However, were there solutions? And I guess that's what I'm looking for is like, yes, we're outraged, but now what? Okay, like we need to be able to have those conversations like Mr. Hendricks. You know, we did change that policy for away trips. That policy was changed. I am sorry he was not notified the policy was changed, but we did change that policy for away trips for our sports teams. It did not go unchanged. And that's, again, a communication issue. So I look at these things and I'm like, okay, we are we're 5 people, but we need the support of the select board. We need the support of the police department. We were lambasted for being silent. The rest of the town was silent as well. And I guess that's the point. We need all voices. We cannot be just 5 people. And I think, yes, okay, sure, put it as a standing agenda item, great. I think we need more of a collaboration, whether it's a public forum, whether it's a joint meeting of the select board and school committee. We need the police chief, the fire chief, we need all of them there, is my opinion, because I do feel that they're the first responders who are dealing with the issues at home that we as a school committee might be aware of, that the district might be aware of, but they're the ones responding in those instances and know some of those pieces. We need mental health, you know, we need our health service, our health department even to chime in on this, because there's so many layers. It's not just one thing. there's just so many layers to all of these various incidents that I really strongly feel it needs to be less of a us sitting here, them sitting there, 3 minutes to talk. We need to have that exchange. Again, those phone calls, we've all had them. Those are where we get places.
Yep.
You know, like when we are able to talk to people who might not totally agree with us, but we find that commonality, and that is what needs to happen. And I guess that's where my frustration, and I'm sorry, I'm still a little, like it's been wound up for 2 days, and I was really relieved, but it really is something I just feel strongly about.
So, Mr. Chair, I know that you want to have input, but I guess I think of this is where the importance of, I think let me backtrack here. One thing that I think we can control is being able to make this a priority and to look at our internal resources, even if it's just budgetarily, to figure out what we invest into this. Right? And what I see here as a starting point to be able to bring in a quote unquote non-biased person to help facilitate these discussions in a meaningful way. And I'm not looking to sell a product here, but I cannot stress enough how important the process was for these opioid remediation funds in these other communities, where a consultant came in and worked with their local task forces and boards to be able to promote inclusivity in these discussions and to host these fabulous and beautiful events where it was structured but open, and there was vulnerability, and there was an opportunity for community partners and for constituents and for other members to be able to be part of this discussion. And we have an opportunity to create something unique here. So I guess my recommendation is, can we please look at that as a committee, review what availability there is or what options or what costs may be attached to that, and then drive that conversation to those identified individuals that we spoke about and Mr. Whedon also brought up in his points.
Well, you guys have covered multiple things here, and so I think we need to condense it down into something that we can make actionable and take various steps. So, you know, we talk about basically hiring a person either as part of the staff or from a contract basis to facilitate some of these discussions or to lead these discussions. I think we need to determine what exactly we want to accomplish, because if we don't know exactly what we're trying to accomplish here, then we don't know what it is we're looking for. So I think we need, as a committee, determine what is it we're looking to accomplish here, have that robust discussion at the next meeting. And you know, we'll tack it on to after the interim superintendent search. So plan for a little bit longer meeting. But I think that will help expedite the process if everyone is willing. Brian, does that sound okay to you? Okay.
I just want to add something to that. It's like when Dan was talking about budgeting monies and stuff. Ask our community. Hey, anybody out there that wants to help us do this, that would volunteer your time to help us? We don't necessarily have to pay a professional $60,000 or $20,000 to come help us do this stuff. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there in our community that would be more than willing to give us an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a cost to us.
And yet I think that this is too important not to invest in. I honestly, we have heard time and time again that the feedback, something's being missed here in the process. And this requires investment.
I'm not saying not to invest in somebody,
Yeah.
but not that investment in a person doesn't necessarily may not translate to dollar amounts. We could have somebody in our community that sits here at meetings. We could have one of our parents that are sitting over there listening to what's going on that said, how can I help?
But to Dan's point, not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but to Dan's point, having an outside of the community person who has kind of an objective view of things and isn't in the thick of it, I think, can be beneficial at times too. So,
Brian's trying to say.
yeah, Brian.
Go ahead, Brian. Did you have something?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. False alarm. Sorry about that. All right. I hear everyone's concerns. I think we've got to package this up into something that we can have an intelligible and actionable discussion at the next meeting. So think about what it is you think is the step forward so that we can get something, on paper.
Yep, and I will be happy to present at least my experience of something that seems similar.
If you have a great
that
idea,
could be helpful for us in our community.
Yeah, because, I picture back to a long time ago leading a blue ribbon committee for the select board where we pulled a number of individuals across the community. But we had a clear objective of what we were trying to accomplish and what our rules were. And so maybe that's one path. Let's talk about it at the next meeting, though. We'll put this on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Patty, yes.
So are you doing the June 10th Zoom or not?
I think that, and this is a personal opinion, please, committee members challenge me, I think there was no particular agenda attached to this meeting as you shared. I think that given our current need, that in my viewpoint, we should bypass this with the intention of utilizing that time to invest in these other opportunities to bring something more meaningful to the community.
I agree.
I agree.
Brian, you okay with that? Okay.
Thumbs up, just for the record.
All right, was there anything else that needed to be brought to the chair's attention at this point?
I know there was somebody else that wanted to make public comment.
All right, well, we would have to vote to have a new public comment, and then everyone would be able to sign up for public comment. We can't make it individually exclusive. So.
Can you explain that to them?
So if there was someone who missed the initial public comment, if you would submit your comments in writing to the committee, we'll make sure that those get shared to each and every one. Okay? Anything else? Otherwise, we will call this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.